Hello all the participants, hello to our presenter. For your information, this session is interpreted, so if you want to ask your question, please send your questions to the designated interpreter. And welcome, Miss Rose, for this session. If you can speak a little bit slower for the people who is listening to interpretations. Also, I wish you a good session and thank you.
Thank you so much, Serafil, for your attention. Thanks everybody for coming today. I am very, very pleased to be here. And well, let's start the session without any further ado. Give me just 1 second. So here we are. As Ms. Serpil introduced me before, my name is Maria Rosa Williams Posadas, and I work at Instituto México de Toluca, which is located in the state of Mexico, in the city of Toluca. And I am an English teacher, and I am also very proud to be teaching the subject called global citizenship. This subject involves the developing awareness about global issues. Every month, each of the subjects, along with this subject, global citizenship, empower the students in order to create projects which are aimed to create solutions for these global issues we have around the world. Welcome. Today, we will identify accurate projects that you can put into action in your community or at home. Students and teachers from Instituto México de Toluca are more than pleased to widespread these projects with eager people so we can all make the change. I've been working at Instituto México de Toluca for 6 years now. And as a Marist school, we are committed, excuse me? Oh, thank you. Please keep your mics muted. Thank you so much. As I was saying, as a Marist school, we are committed to preserve and follow these 5 charisms. The first one is presence, which means caring for each other, seeking relationships founded on love, being attentive, and welcoming in a sense of openness. The second charism is simplicity, which means being straightforward and genuine, humble and modest, which means doing good quietly. Family spirit means to be related to each other as members of a loving family, building community, offering the warmth of welcoming and acceptance and belonging, sharing our successes and failures, and setting clear standards of honesty, mutual respect, and tolerance. Love of work, which is one of the most I adore, means being generous of heart, constant and persevering in our daily work, confident, visionary, decisive in meeting the needs of our community, and encouraging each other to discover dignity of our work with young people and of course with each other. And last but not least, in the way of Mary, seeing Mary as a perfect model of being Marist, tender, strong, and constant in faith. In other words, we are committed to work together in order to fulfill each teenager's needs, guiding them in the good, and planting the seed to generate conscience for helping the most vulnerable. Presently, there are approximately 3,500 brothers in 7-8 countries on 5 continents, working directly and sharing their mission of an spirituality with more than 40,000 lay marists, and together educating close to 500,000 children and young people. As knowledge givers giving awareness, we were in need to search for new tools which had the same impact and could develop in our future generations the advocacy and support for change, which we are sure that it can be reached beyond any culture, religion, or ethnicity. That is why 3 years ago, Instituto México de Toluca decided to become an ally with Notion. This word stands for knowledge in action. Knowledge is an integrated learning ecosystem that merges science and consciousness to live as a new humanity. Notion has built a new pedagogical model based on design thinking, which develops authentic life skills and fosters a new culture in students. Its curricula is based on the SDGs. This means that all the activities, all the videos, all the contents, the proposals made have a sole purpose, which is to create solutions through generations that make the change. The impact model provides an environment in which students solve transdisciplinary challenges while building a real and deep understanding of the world around them, thus developing their own identity in harmonious coexistence with their environment and the firm commitment to positively impact it. We empower. Fusing these two approaches, the result was amazing. Marists, who were founded more than 200 years ago and are focused in the most needy and vulnerable, with its sole objective of promoting cooperation and kindness among humanity, merging with Notion, which objectives are directed in developing truthfulness, love, and serenity, creating a wise, responsible, and sustainable community. This is an incredible and powerful union, both with the same purpose. Our goal is to make a positive impact on the world by empowering tomorrow's global citizens today through our learning ecosystems, building a spirit of family, and helping the most disadvantaged. We meet with others to walk together, sharing and helping each other to grow in mission. Marists have always worked in SDGs without knowing it. And with this conjunction, we have the liability to deliver human beings responsible and committed to their society, and most of all to their world, the world that they are living in and the world that they have to take care of. But well, what is the process? How do we start? Where do we start? What is the workshop? About, right? The process can base and involves a lot of learning strategies centered and directed to teenagers. We have found that the fundamental ingredients are consistency and having the perspective of standing in the other's shoes. In other words, putting themselves in the other's place. Normally, we divide the school year in conjunction with Notion in 8 main topics: health and well-being, violence and ecosystems, productivity and economy, science, technology, and innovation, origins and cultural diversity, power, authority, and civil ideals, crisis and conflict resolution, and environment and sustainability. These topics are guided to find a solution on a specific SDG Through the impact learning model, students are the main characters in building up their own learning, in developing attitudes and abilities, and in the acquisition of values to live as a new humanity. Impact model is designed to turn theory into action throughout 4 phases: identify, map, prototype, and act. The first phase, identify, tries to connect and empathize with the SDG and recognize the issues, but from the personal point of view of each student. We identify the SDG by throwing a magnetic question and creating curiosity, showing them statistics and raising awareness. They research and create their own knowledge about the global issue. For example, in SDG 6, we threw this question. SDG 6, which is about clean water and sanitation, we threw this question: what can I do to increase the availability of clean water in my local community? When they start doing some research and digging in, right, they come across with some facts which normally for their eyes. Sometimes they really don't realize that 2,200 million people don't have access to clean water, or that 4,200 million don't have access to safe sanitation. And some of them have to pay 10 or 20 times more than others in order to have access to clean water. They realize that we have some companies wasting and creating expensive goods with water, digital devices, and clothes. They realize that to create a glass of wine, companies have to spend and have to waste 120 liters only for one glass of wine. For a bag of chips, they need to use 185 liters of water in the process. So this really amazes them, right? And this makes them aware of all the things that are outside that maybe sometimes for them it's pretty normal, right? In the second phase, which is map, it consists in placing the problem in a local global context. They search for causes and for consequences, and pointing out new scenarios to build new solutions. So following the previous example, right, about the SDG, clean water and sanitation, which would be the causes and consequences, and how can we stop this? In order to create their own knowledge and to come up with the solution, students made the research. Sometimes it is not the way they expect it, the same way as they are doing it at the identify phase. They realize that searching the causes and consequences leads them to a different world, right? A different normality they are living in. They realize that globally, 1 in 10 people are without safe and clean water. More than 2,000 children under 5 die per day from diarrhea. UNICEF estimates that 1 in 10 school-age African girls either skips school during menstruation or drops out entirely because of lack of sanitation. With their educations cut short, the chance of these girls breaking the cycle of poverty they were born into is all but eliminated. When they realize these consequences and the causes of not having access to water or to clean water and sanitation facilities, they realize that they have to do something, right? That their normality is way more different than theirs. And planting this seed in the kids, planting this seed in the students is the most important thing that we are committed to do. The next step is a prototype, right? After identifying, mapping, we need to prototype and we need to design actions. Propose and design key actions to solve the problem in a collaborative environment, working side by side. It is about proposing and designing creativity, innovative and sustainable solutions in a collaborative environment with a priority in common good. Students work collaboratively, they come up with a sustainable solution and they agree on it, right? What they want to do, they have to talk, they have to discuss, they have to debate, right? And they have to decide what they want to do in order to solve the problem locally or globally. They are the creators of this solution, their solution, and this really empowers them. All of the ideas are spoken, of course, and they have to agree on which would be the best. We finally get to the best part, how their ideas become a reality act. Putting into action the solution, noticing the range and capacity, okay? Here they generate the actions which impact positively in their community. It consists in implementing and adapting actions to the problems in order to generate the evidence of their own achievement and to see the change they are making in the world. Related to the SDG number 6, access to clean water and sanitation facilities, the result was amazing, amazing. Some students created water filters which they took into their houses and they started using them. Of course, with the idea of taking them to Africa, to Asia, where people don't have access to this clean water. In other groups, students made water awareness campaigns, right? In order for people to see how much water they were spending or how much water the companies were spending in a lot of products they had, like in cell phones, in digital devices, iPads, right? In clothes, okay? Some of their students realized these campaigns and they pasted posters around school. They were spreading the word with other classmates and they started using and recycling materials and reusing materials. They realized how much water they were using or it was used to produce a single pair of jeans. So they decided to give it another use, right? They decided to recycle, reuse it, and even some of them were creating purses, creating other things with clothes and wearing them. So this gave them a different perspective, right? And in their houses, they took these actions over there and their parents were amazed, of course. They decided, some of them, even to change and became vegan because they realized how much water was wasted in the process of making a hamburger, which is, by the way, 2,400 liters just to make a hamburger. The purpose of this workshop was to show you some ideas and projects that the students and teachers from Instituto Mexico de Toluca have done. To support SDG 1, which is no poverty, we perform Solidarity Days and food drives. In the Solidarity Days, students are focused on target 1.2, which is, and I quote, by 2030, reduce at least by half the proportion of men, women, and children of all ages living in poverty in all its dimensions according to national definitions. These Solidarity Days start by having talks with students, giving them key facts from Carnival, right, which is the national organisms of the social department in Mexico, triggering some questions such as, did you know that there are more than 9.3 million Mexican people living in extreme poverty, and we are 127 million in the world? So this triggers them, okay? This really triggers them, and they started by asking, and they start by getting sensitized by several teachers, Miss Jessie Mayoral and Maestro Jesus Gutierrez. They run these projects. So to support also the food drives, right? They run them, and in the food drives we support SDG 2, which is zero hunger, specifically target 2.1, which says by 2030 end hunger and ensure access by all people, in particular the poor and people in vulnerable situations, including infants, to save nutritious and sufficient food all year round. These food drives, they are run and they are directed by students. I mean, teachers are there to give them some support, of course, but they are directed by students. They have to collect all the food, they have to package it, and they have to put it in they have to distribute it and give it to our neighbor towns, right, who live in extreme poverty. These food drives are done approximately every 3 months. The solidarity days are performed every single month, and we try to include all the students, right? Sometimes we have to start setting and planting this seed in the students, because from the other way they would be like living in their normal world and in their perfect world, right? So showing them this, giving these facts from Coneval, and giving a lot of information that our teachers handle, they start creating this impact normality in their lives, right? They start changing. For target 3, which is good health and well-being, we specifically support target 1, which is by 2030 reduce global maternal mortality ratio to less than 70 per 100,000 live births. And also target 7, by 2030 ensure universal access to sexual and reproductive healthcare services, including for family planning, information and education, and the integration of reproductive health into national strategies and programs. Students from 9th grade were responsible of these. They, as I told you before, in Notion, they see the target, they start getting involved, they start researching for the causes and the consequences, and start to imagine new solutions, innovative solutions, creative solutions. Sometimes, of course, right, you may say, well, a campaign, everybody does campaigns. Yeah, but imagine doing this every single month or every single week or every single year, right? Imagine getting into government, imagine getting into people who have a really high position, and that they could really help and they could really make the change, right? And but most of all, I believe that students, our path, and I talk as a teacher, our path of being teachers is to create and to plant these seeds. So when this teenager becomes an adult, it recreates everything he has learned. So while talking about this project, it was a teenage pregnancy campaign, and it was performed by students of 9th grade. They went out to the streets and they start having money drives at school, at streets. They created posters where they were talking and giving facts to people, right? How many teenagers died during pregnancy, how many babies died during giving birth, right? Or Even teenagers and babies were dead, right? Giving these facts to people and trying to sensitize again, to create this solidarity for them. And along with CAM, which is an aid center for women, they started doing this. And by the end of the campaign, which lasted for 2 weeks, as far as I remember, they started selling bracelets also. And in the end of the campaign, they were able to give these students, because they were students, these women from the aid center, they could give them money. Some of the students even became godfathers for these children. So imagine the change and the impact in their lives of becoming godparents, honorary godparents for these children. This was amazing. And of course, this is something that they can replicate and do it again and see how far they can go. Sorry. Um, in order to support SDG 4, which is quality education, and specifically target 7, by 2030, ensure that all learners acquire the knowledge and skills needed to promote sustainable development, including, among others, true education for sustainable development and sustainable lifestyles, human rights, gender equality, promotion of a culture of peace and non-violence, global citizenship and appreciation of cultural diversity, and of culture's contribution to sustainable development. Also, targeting SDG 3, good health and well-being, specifically target 4, which talks about reduced mortality from non-communicable diseases and to promote mental health. This was the one where we centered, promoting mental health. This was a very, very nice campaign created by second graders and, sorry, not second graders, 8th graders. And they called it the Magic Monday. During this campaign, students went out during their recess every Monday, and they made this frame created out from recycled materials, and they took pictures. They had funny phrases and things like that, promoting how to talk about and how to handle these emotions. This was poor self-esteem, stress, anger, anxiety. So let's remember that 9th graders and in junior high school as a whole, teenagers present this problem or this issue with coping with emotions, right? So they realize and they research the causes and consequences, and of course the consequences were devastating for them, like suicide, and getting to know the world, right? That was the most impressive for them, that it happens and it can happen to anybody, right? So they decided to create conscious, to motivate them to talk, to motivate them to handle and cope with these emotions. They took these into their houses, into their homes, and by doing this, they improved. And this was said on statistics, 70 families out of 100 families from the school identified and it became improved their communication and their mental stability in their houses, which was very, very good for them to identify this. Also, we have every single year we have a week of mental health. Okay, during this week we promote the way of talking, right? We promote how to cope with these emotions. We promote talks with parents, conferences, and things like that. A matter which is fundamental is to provide an inclusive environment for disabled people. According to the World Health Organization, over 1 billion people live some form of disability. This corresponds to about 15% of the world's population. SDG 4, which is quality education, specifically on target 4A, which talks about build and upgrade education facilities that are child, disability, and gender sensitivity and provide safe, non-violent, inclusive, and effective learning environments for all. Hiraki, right, is a group which is run at our school. It is run by teachers Julie Juarez and Lily Rivera at secondary, at junior high school, and for some other two teachers at high school. But in this group, in this special group, they work with the students from 12 to 24 years, more or less, and they are included in most of the classes, right? They are being prepared to be independent, and they are given tools to develop personal autonomy. As you can see in the pictures, during this project, they were taught to grow food, right? Lettuce, onion, carrot, coriander. A lot of food was taught on how to grow this food. Students, of course, are guided by Miss Julie and by Miss Lily in older students who have it is called transition to the adult life, right? And they are taught to cook, to be independent, to be innovative, to have this initiative every single time that they want to do something, but also to be aware of dangers, to be aware of everything that they have around, to be aware of everything that is happening around. They created these land, right? These crops, and they were created in the greenhouse, right? So, which is another project that I will talk to you about in a few minutes. And they were given the prize for social merit in 2018 for this extraordinary work. And well, of course, we are inclusive. Well, in this project, this was amazing. This was one of the ideas the students came up in the first SDGs that I was talking to you about. This is a video where they talk about clean water and sanitation. This video was broadcast at school, and specifically on Target 4, which claims by 2030 substantially increase water use efficiency across all sectors and ensure sustainable withdrawals and supply of fresh water to address water scarcity and sustainably reduce the number of people suffering from water scarcity. Let me show you the video.
The water in the food. How much water is in the food?
1 glass of milk requires 200 liters.
1 glass of orange juice, 170 liters. 1 apple, 70 liters.
1 hamburger, 2,400 liters.
1 orange, 50 liters.
1 cup of coffee, 140 liters. 1 slice of bread, 40 liters.
3 eggs, 286 gallons.
Chocolate, 1,400 gallons.
1 corn, 50 gallons.
Thanks for watching.
Okay, some people who watch these videos, they don't believe it. But of course, it is all the water wasted during the process. Of course, they create delicious things, but it is all the water waste during the process of making it. And it is amazing. Some students even eat an apple, and they are wondering, oh my God, I'm eating an apple, and this cost or this in the water they spend 70 liters of water, right, in the apple. So it is amazing how they start realizing and discovering everything that happens around them. In order to work with SDG 10, which is to reduce inequalities, specifically target 2, which is to promote universal social, economic, and political inclusion. Students invite local producers to sell their products during a week. It is called the Fair Trade Week. And during this school week, we receive different local producers who sell their products. This is a way to support their economy and promoting local consumption. Our school receives them and we are eager to buy everything, right? Of course, this is also open to our community. That means that the local producers, there are some single moms, there are some disability people, right, who get into this fair trade week, and they start selling them products. And of course, most of all, students get to know them, and sometimes they even go out of the school, they go out and buy things, and they get them in touch with different people and things like that. So it is very, very interesting to work in these kind of things. Then we have responsible production and consumption. This is specifically for Target 4, which is by 2020, achieve the environmentally sound management of chemicals and all wastes throughout their life cycle, in accordance with agreed international frameworks, and significantly reduce their release to air, water, and soil in order to minimize their adverse impacts on human health and environment. 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th graders, right? High school graders, they decided that we needed a greenhouse, right? Of course, along with the Department of Ministry, Ana Villazón, Carlos Ramirez, of course, all the school was involved in the project. They decided to build a greenhouse at school. This greenhouse is by far, I believe, one of the most impacting projects that we have made. They needed to sell first. They needed to get the money, so they started making. They made some Christmas ornaments, so they started selling them. When they gathered the money, they started building it, and the result was amazing. We have been using this greenhouse for a lot of years, for more than 3 years now, I believe. And this has worked for the Hiraki students, the inclusive students that we have at school, develop new ideas and know how to develop maybe a crop in their house, or some ideas that could help them in order for them to continue with their adult life, so they can become independent, of course. Students from all the grades have passed here. They have planted sunflowers, lettuce, chili, coriander, carrot, onion. We planted potatoes. They planted flowers, as you can see in the image. All of this to know the process. All of this to know the process. They are free from pesticides. Something important that they did was that when they when they grew the food, it was very, very interesting to watch them at lunch eating their own food, and looking at them really, really happy for doing this, for having accomplished this, right? The most important is that they are going to replicate this in their houses, and replicate this in their adult life, and replicate this with their children, and replicate this everywhere they go. So in order for us, of course, to plant this seed in these children, to develop this imagination, this creativity, this innovation. We need to show them some tools, right? Amazing things when they created the potato project. They decided to take it into their house and they started growing potatoes. Normally potatoes are really easy to grow, right? For some of them, of course, there were some failures, right? But there were many assets. Students were very pleased. They started eating their products, right? And free of pesticides, without harming the planet, right? Without using this crazy amount of water they use in the processes, becoming sustainable, becoming independent. So what else can I say? I mean, this really amazes students and this really impacts the students. And of course, it impacts the world. It impacts their footprint, their carbon footprint, right? Their water footprint. It impacts their lives. I mean, they are going to think it twice when they try to buy something, right? We have stopped using also plastic in the school. So this is this is a very big achievement. In the past, we used to produce lots of tons of waste, but nowadays the students have to take their own plastic containers and plastic bottles, right, in order to get their food. So there is a minimum waste of trash. And of course, we have made tons of activities about recycling, reducing, reusing this waste, focusing on SDG 12, which is responsible production and consumption, on target 5 specifically. By 2030, substantially reduce waste generation through prevention, reduction, recycling, and reuse. Students have made amazing things which really impact the environment. They have reduced using plastic. They have reduced using materials. They have reused these materials. I don't know if we can see the image over there, which was about 3 students who created the idea of making mats out of shoe soles. And they were like, yes, teacher, because when a lot of and they gave me facts, they gave me statistics, they gave ideas on how they could reuse them. They are taking it into another level, but of course they are trying to stop the impact this makes to the world. That's the most important thing, and what we are trying to plant. Here we have more and more examples of what students do, how they are trying to impact the world, and how they are growing, right? How this seed is growing inside them, and they are becoming good people and helping the one next door, which is the most important. I didn't want to end this presentation. Of course, thanking you for listening. Thank you for coming and showing you this image, which was made with a lot of love to promote the World Ecology Day, which was taken on November 1st last year, of course. And that says more eco, less ego. I believe that this has to be our precept, right? This has to be our goal. And always remembering helping the most vulnerable and helping the person who lives next door. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for your beautiful presentation and your insights. Now we would like to go through the Q&A session. If there are participants who like to send their questions or directly ask, you can raise your hand. or you can drop them in the chat.
Yes, of course. I will send you my email, okay? And maybe you can send me Ana Vidal from Mexico, I believe. Says that if they can have my contact, yes, I will be typing my email here. Thank you so much. Excellent. We could make an alliance, right?
I love your presentation, and it's great if we can be in contact. Thank you so much. Gracias.
Thank you.
We still have a couple of minutes left. If you want to ask, you can still send them. But like I said, it was a wonderful presentation. Thank you for your session.
Yes. Thank you so much. Thanks everybody who was here. Thank you, thank you. It is amazing to see how well, I'm talking as a teacher, of course, and as a mom and as an activist who tries to plant this seed in people. I personally believe that if we are committed, that if we start by making, I have a friend who says baby steps, right? She says baby steps, Rose, baby steps. And we are, I mean, we may be thinking that we are not capable of changing the world, right? But we are. If we start by oneself, right, by ourselves, and we start planting the seed, making these baby steps, like dividing the trash, like starting your own crop in your garden, like stop wasting water, stop buying products, and stop maybe getting involved with these companies who are who have us trapped by consumerism. If we stop consuming, with all the respect for everybody, if we stop consuming meat, if we stop consuming these animal products, if we have into consideration that when they are killed in the process of making the meat, in the process of creating all the daily goods, in the process of doing all these things, if we have that in mind, that a lot of water is waste, and tons of things are produced around it, but there are other people in other countries who have to go like miles and miles for getting just one bucket of water. If we have that in mind, if we keep that in mind, and if we start planting this seed to the youth, to the teenagers, of course we will be willing to change the world. And I was very pleased to come. Miss Lisa Martin invited me, so I am thrilled. I was pleased to give you the talk, and of course it was my pleasure. Let me finish sending this. Thank you so much for having me.
It's our pleasure. So here you are, the contact of Miss Rose.
Yes, you can write me directly, and of course there won't be any problem if we talk, if we have an agreement. Maybe we can have alliances, right, and talk about everything that we do at school. As I said in the presentation before, we as Marist, we have been working with the SDGs before knowing it. I mean, we have created these solidarity days, we created the food drives, and I talk as we because I consider myself part of this ideology. I was a student there for my whole life, and as I said, I believe that Marist are working with the SDGs more than 200 years ago. Doing this research with my colleagues, I could realize that um, most of them do these things, but without looking at how big it is going to be. They only look at, or they only matter, or they are only worried about how the people next door is going to feel and how we can help the people next door. Just imagining how they are going to feel, what is happening in their houses, what is happening in their lives. These really can help us. And having this in mind, of course, marriages have done this all their lives since they were created and founded 200 years ago.
Thank you very much, Ms. Rose, again. Since we have no questions, we should be closing now due to time constraints because the other sessions are going to start. But
Yes, of course.
again, thank you for coming. Thank you for the session.
Thank you. Thank you, Serpil, and thanks everybody for coming. Thanks for listening. Students and teachers, thank you so much for listening to this presentation. Please write me back. Okay, guys? Thank you. Thank you for coming. Thank you, Serpil, and thank you, Moon Impact, for your invitation.
Thank you so much, Ms. Williams, for your amazing presentation. ST12 is actually one of my favorite SDGs, and so I really liked hearing what you had to say. That being said, as Sir Phil said, I think we're going to have to end the session soon. But Ms. Williams, thanks again for presenting. We hope you'll present for Anyone Impact future programs or any events or any guest speakers that we may have. We would be delighted to have you. Participants, you may leave if you would like and head on to your next session. Thanks again, Ms. Williams.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, guys. Thank you so much. And I am really, really amazed of what you are doing. You're so young and you are creating this world, the change, right? You are making the change. And of course, I would be really grateful to come back. I would be really grateful to participate again. And well, thank you so much. Thank you so much for everybody to come. Good morning in Mexico.
Having you again.
You too. Thank you so much.